Hello, let's take a look at Chapter 1 from your textbook. Now we've completed the introduction and we know some of the problems that we're facing in early childhood education. Chapter 1's topic is a curriculum framework for reflective teaching. And remember, that was one of the problems, is that teachers are not provided with time to be reflective in their teaching. So new knowledge is always under construction. When teachers view themselves as researchers along with the children, not as transmitters of knowledge or disciplinarians. Curriculum is more than learning domains or standards, and it's definitely not about teacher-proof curriculum, which is part of the problems that were introduced in the introduction to the text. Knowledge results from creating a praxis or three-way process through observation by the teacher, reflection by the teacher, and then action resulting from that. Authentic observation is based on children's everyday work and embedded in the everyday process of the workday. And documentation is collected on the details of what happens every day as children investigate and express what they learn. Teachers should reflect regarding themselves, their background, values, actions, goals, and their educational philosophy. They should reflect on their classroom environment and the materials they use, and reflect on the children that are enrolled in their classroom, the children's developmental levels, their strengths, their competencies, the culture and family background. And the children should be reflecting on themselves and others as learners. And then the act part is offering additional materials to children as they need them, coach acquisition and practice of skills, and challenge the children to explore more deeply. So core practice number 1 is creating a nourishing classroom culture. So teachers want to create memory-making rituals, things that happen every day that the children will remember. Focus constant attention to relationships, and these are relationships of the teachers with the children with each other, and the teachers and the children with their parents. And then focus on communication and negotiation of ideas, desires, and different points of view. Core practice number 2 is to enhance curriculum with materials. A macro focus of materials would be focusing on your room design and the setup of materials. And micro focuses on the materials themselves and how they are individually presented. Utilize open-ended materials with many possible uses, not just 1 or 2 uses. Follow the lead of the children and their interest and skills, and include play in the process of using materials, both its types and developmental stages. So now let's take a look at 2 perspectives on play stages. The first one was developed by Parton. Keep in mind that these stages are developmental or sequential, but once they exist, they also continue throughout childhood. So the first Parton play stage is uninvolved, and this is where children are really involved with their own thoughts and not really using objects or playing. Onlooker is watching others play. Solitary is actually playing alone with objects or using their imagination. Parallel play is playing next to others, but not together, not sharing materials, not communicating with each other. Associative play is playing with others and exchanging materials. And cooperative play is the highest stage, and this is planning and assigning roles with others as they play. A second perspective on play is Piaget's. He says that first comes functional play, which is simple and repetitive, discovering things that can be done with objects and practicing skills. Constructive play is goal-oriented play, which has some sort of purpose. Dramatic play is pretend play. Social dramatic play is pretending with others. And then the highest level of play is games with rules, being able to follow predetermined rules. Something to keep in mind about games with rules: this doesn't happen until ages 7 or 8. And so in ages previous to that, children are very egocentric and really don't do well with following predetermined rules because of their egocentrism. They always want to be the winner. And so core practice number 3, bring yourself to the teaching and learning process. So training more often focuses on what rather than why and who the teacher is. And so we want to change that by really considering what is the teacher's knowledge of child development, what is the teacher's knowledge of educational philosophies, what are the teacher's dispositions or characteristics, what are the teacher's past experiences, what are the teacher's values, and then what are the teacher's goals. Core practice number 4 would be to coach the children to learn about learning, rather than looking at them as an empty vessel where we hold the reins in regards to learning. We want to co-create curriculum with the children, balance child and teacher initiation. Teacher initiation should include role modeling by the teacher, improvisations by the teacher following the children's lead, coaching the children's skills as they exhibit development in their play, making sure that children have the right tools, and then coaching them in knowing how to do things. Vygotsky is the theorist that really focuses on how we can coach, and he gives us what he calls the zone of proximal development, which would be where we can be most effective in coaching. And so in this picture you can see that in order to know where the zone of proximal development is, we need to know child development, and then we need to observe the child to see the level that they're functioning at right now, so that's the lower limit, and then be versed enough in child development to know what step would come next, and keep in mind that this should be baby steps, not giant leaps. And if we know that level of what comes next, then we can coach the child in order to reach that upper limit. So for example, when a child is learning to walk, one of the first things we might observe is that they're pulling themselves up on furniture. Now, we can't assume that the next step is going to be walking, of course, because it's not. The next step is walking around the furniture, and then letting go, and then walking the first step. So if you don't know development, then you're not going to know how to find that zone of proximal development. So an example of how we could coach would be to set up furniture so that the child can walk around the furniture and develop their muscles and legs for walking and standing. Core practice number 5 would be to dig deeper to learn with children. So more is not necessarily better. In fact, it increases understanding and development of skills if we dig deeper and not just move on to the next skill. If we find out more information and develop a stronger use of that particular skill. So children need time to investigate. They need repetition, opportunities to practice over and over, and to gradually build their skills by adding things to challenge them. They need opportunities to follow their current interests, to motivate them to participate, and there needs to be sensitivity to their intelligence and their ability to come up with ideas themselves. And so another way that we can dig deeper is to focus on Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Currently, our traditional approaches in schools tend to focus on verbal linguistic intelligence, logical mathematical intelligence, and really there are many more types of intelligences. There's spatial visual, there's bodily kinesthetic, there's musical intelligence, there's interpersonal intelligence, which has to do with interacting with others. There's intrapersonal intelligence, which has to do with knowledge about yourself. There's naturalistic intelligence, and then existential intelligence, and that has to do with tackling deep questions like human existence, what's the meaning of life, and so on. And so as a teacher, we can coach children by really keeping in mind these multiple ways that children can be intelligent.